All right, what's up, everybody? Inside Carolina, the post game here. I am not Tommy Ashley. I'm Joey Powell, so I apologize that I'm not Tommy. But to make up for it, I brought Bobby Frasor. We are brought to you by Johnny T-Shirt and Congruity HR. So, Bobby, when I reached out to you to see if you wanted to jump in today, surely you expected a North Carolina skull dragging, right? Like that was what you had on your bingo card.
Did not expect biscuits today. I'll give you that, but I'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out to Bobby, not Dewey Burke on a Biscuits game. It should be Dewey, but no,
Yeah.
Bobby's a gamer today. Bobby, I want to run through some stats real quick before we dive into this post game. I'm sitting here looking, and I see a North Carolina team that had 11 guys in the scoring column, 22 second chance points, 39 bench points, and 20 fast break points in a game against an ACC opponent at home. uh, I understand a lot of folks are happy about the road wins, but it's got to feel different for this team to come home and absolutely just blow the brakes off of somebody like they did Syracuse today, right? Bob, did I lose you? All right, so Bobby is dealing with some clearly Bobby is dealing with some internet issues.
Sorry, you kind of broke up there.
Okay, it might be me or it might be you, but I was just asking, how do you feel like this team adjusted to being back home? Because clearly, they probably could have named their score.
You got me?
I got you.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. A little choppy.
No, was just trying to make sure we had you and talking about the Tar Heels getting back and being home and being able to name their score. Bobby, wants to try? You got me? You want to try to log back in, or is it just bad?
You're going like in and out. I don't know. That's me.
Well, I'll tell you what.
You.
We'll try to. Well, apparently everybody can hear me. Maybe it's your video. I'm not real sure, but if you want to log back out and log back in, we'll go ahead and wait for you to get back. Appreciate everybody sticking around. Sorry for the Wi-Fi issues. That's part of doing live stuff here. But Bobby will be right back in just 1 second. Joining us after the Tar Heels put an absolute beating on the Syracuse Orange today. Appreciate you joining us here on InsideCarolina.com. Give you some quick stats while we're waiting on Bobby. 103-67 is the final score. Again, I mentioned 11 players in the scoring column for the Tar Heels, led by R.J. Davis with 22, Armando Bacot in limited minutes. I mean, Armando Bacot played 17 minutes today, which I think North Carolina is going to really enjoy being able to save minutes for Armando Bacot. But even in 17 minutes today, Armando had 16 points and 11 rebounds, which is just an absolute yeoman stat line in that amount of time. All right. Bobby, you good now?
We're back, yeah.
We're back up. We're back up. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to ask you, what's it like after being on the road? Clearly, this team enjoys being back home. How does that look to you as a guy who's played in the Smith Center before?
Yeah, I mean, they've had a lot of road games. I think I saw some stat. It's been, I don't know how many days, 30 days, 40 days, whatever it was, since they had a home game. Obviously, you get the juices going a little bit. Saturday ACC game. That's when the crowds come and fill up the Smith Center. And so you always have the adrenaline going for those games.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things to like today. I think coming back off of the way they were winning against Pitt and Clemson and then in Raleigh this past week, you might say, what's up with the offense? Well, you play a team like Syracuse, who is more of an up-tempo team. They do have a lot higher possession ratio than a lot of the other teams North Carolina's been playing. Bobby, there's not a lot to dislike here today. So I want to ask you, what was the first thing that jumped out at you after watching this team today? Because after the first half, it was pretty much a laugher.
Yeah, the first thing that jumped out to me was Syracuse, just their effort. Like, I don't know if I'm looking at and being too critical of our team, but I didn't think Syracuse played hard early from the jump. When it got down to 10, 12, 15 early, it just seemed like they were just lifeless from the start. But conversely, the positives for us, every game I watch, I get more and more impressed with Ingram, just how hard he plays, how many different ways he scores, whether it's from the perimeter or post moves and backing guys down. So he's been a very, very pleasant surprise for me this year, just watching him, and I enjoy watching him play, and we'll continue to watch him or enjoy watching him play. But another thing that stood out was just the bench scoring. I think we were up tied in 12-15, and it was without Davis scoring, without Baycott scoring a ton. And so I think give a credit to Coach Davis on how he's developing his bench this year, and maybe he's learned from the last couple seasons where he's going to need to do that. And now that's a huge asset for us.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And some shout out to the over 250 folks in the chat watching us live right now. I think you're spot on with Syracuse. Kind of just got mashed out and really didn't want anything to do with that second half, and you could see it some in the first half, but North Carolina was really just kind of dictating and imposing their will the way they wanted to. One of the things, and I'm going to rip off of Dewey a little bit, but one of the things he said in some of these postgame shows, and I agree with it wholeheartedly, and I want to get your perspective on it. I think this team's ceiling becomes a lot higher when Elliot Cadeau becomes more comfortable and more aggressive. As a guy who's played point guard at North Carolina, what are you seeing from Elliot Cadeau right now? And do you think he's starting to kind of get a little bit more comfortable in the deep end right now?
For sure. I think he's getting more comfortable getting to the basket and things like that. And Jay Williams talked about it a little bit too at halftime of the game on ESPN, saying that he takes Carolina to the next level if he is an offensive threat. But there's still times where he was wide open at the top of the key. Maybe it's an offensive rebound was kicked out to him today, and he doesn't even look to shoot. So I don't know if there's just some, not a ton of confidence in his jump shot right now. But yeah, if he can develop into being a threat offensively from the perimeter and driving, like that's just going to open up so much more, for the rest of the guys. But, it's getting there, and hopefully he can continue to, improve his shot and then also just be a little bit more assertive offensively.
I think some folks are a little worried about Cormac Ryan's 3-point shot. I mean, I think he might have been 0 for 3 from 3 today. But I agree with you. When you've got Cadeau driving and penetrating, it's going to get those guys better looks. You did see the Tar Heels hit some open 3-pointers today. They finished the game at 27%, 7 of 26 from behind the arc. But I do think that number was better before they started trying to stretch into biscuit mode there at the end. Yeah. How do you feel like a guy like Cormac Ryan can get out of it? And are you worried about a player like that that's got as much experience as he does and that typically shoots as well as he does?
Yeah, I see all the analytics. I see everybody that tweets about or his splits, off the bounce versus, catch and shoot. He did, against NC State, I think he did make 2 off the bounce there in that first half on that right side. I remember him knocking those down. So he's more streaky. Than he is just a knockdown shooter, but he's still a threat where people are going to have to guard. It's not like people are going to play off of him or not guard him. So at least he's a threat to shoot, which I think helps. And, hopefully if he can be in that 33-34% range, I think that's what we're asking for.
Yeah, I think that's something that's really important for everybody to kind of think about what Bobby just said. Cormac Ryan's got the rep that even if he's not hitting deep shots, people can't play off of him. It's not one of those things where people can leave him on self-check, and it's going to force the defense to continue to stay honest. For those of you who were worried about R.J. Davis not blowing up the scorebook, well, he's happy to oblige today. 7 of 12 from the field, finishing with 22 points. Bobby, when I see R.J. Davis right now, regardless of where he is on the floor, I see a guy that thinks every shot he takes is a layup. You played with Wayne Ellington, and you were a shooter yourself. Do you remember seeing a guy that was as confident on his release as RJ is right now with the ball in his hand?
Wayne was pretty confident. But RJ this year, I think he knows he's the man. He knows he's the guy. And I think when you have that level of confidence, that green light, that, when you walk out on the court, hey, I'm the best guard on this team. I'm the best shooter on this team. Like the basket seems bigger. I was like that in high school, maybe in college. Obviously, I had so much more talent around me. It was a little different. But like when you're the guy, you just feel like you have all the confidence in the world. And I think you make more shots. And it's showing in him this year where he doesn't have to look over his shoulder, defer to Caleb or defer to Armando, whatever it may be. And I think he's flourishing in that role.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this is also the anniversary of the Wayne Ellington shot at Clemson, especially since
the really?
Played at Clemson last week. And I remember you had a heck of a tumble after that, but we won't quite get into that one. But I know you remember that game really well.
Yeah, you can flash the highlight up of me falling down over the bench. That's how good.
Another thing I wanted to talk to you about is UNC is starting to really find some post depth, and you saw it today with Armando Bacot playing limited minutes, which is something I'm sure he will love later in the season when he can find those minutes elsewhere. But you got 12 minutes out of Jalen Washington today, and you got a ton of minutes out of Jalen Withers as well. Both of those guys combined for 21 points and a gaggle of rebounds. How can this team continue while you've got a post focus in Armando Bacot? How can this team continue to work those guys in so that they're showing off their skill set? They're giving Armando a break, but they're seemingly fitting in really well. Is there any sort of rhyme or reason to it? Or do you think it's just that these guys just want to win and are totally bought in?
No, I think they're getting more minutes with Armando these last 2 games being in foul trouble. I don't like Armando fouling a guy shooting a 3-pointer. You know, it was nice to see him try to move his feet and challenge the shot, but I don't want him picking up a second foul doing that. I'd rather have Armando in the game. But it's good to get Jalen some minutes. I think he's getting more comfortable. You know, obviously so long. I'd like to see him. Everyone talked about his shooting when he was coming into Carolina, and you haven't really seen that from the perimeter from that sense. But Withers, I think he shows some flashes. He does some nice things, and I think today was good to see him active and getting offensive rebounds and scoring inside. Because again, I don't think Syracuse played the hardest, but it's good to see when teams are kind of laying down that you just put your foot down and you know, keep it on them.
Yeah, I think it's important to note too. Syracuse was without one of their post players today. A kid was dealing with an ankle injury, but hey, North Carolina can't help but play who shows up from the other locker room. What was your favorite part of this game, Bobby? Again, like where there's so much to choose from and there's so much positivity in the stat sheet. Was there anything that just really made you stand up and cheer? As a guy who's worn the uniform, played in that scenario, played against both good Syracuse teams and not so good Syracuse teams. What was your feel of that?
Probably one play that stood out is I think, you know, Cadeau had the and one layup, missed the free throw. Then Ingram gets an offensive rebound, kicks it back out, and we get another. Cadeau gets another layup or so. And we score 4 points in one possession. I think that's when they cut it to 15 in the second half. Syracuse had a little bit of momentum, so it's good to see that they can come back a little bit, and you can make a hustle play, an effort play, an offensive rebound that's gonna, you know, extend the lead back to 19, 20, whatever it was, and really put it away. But just the hustle plays, the effort plays, the steals, guys getting out in transition and running. The lob pass was really nice from Davis. Sharing the basketball, getting Ingram inside the middle against the zone was another highlight. I thought he really picked him apart from in there. So just all around, just a lot of good things, a lot of fun Carolina basketball to watch.
Yeah, almost 400 folks in here joining us live and are probably feeling very similar to your feelings there. Bobby Frasor joining us here, champion on the 2009 UNC basketball team. Bobby, I don't want to make this uber saccharine in a sense that we're just talking about the positive, because there's so much positive to talk about. I'm sitting here looking at this, and I know that Hubert Davis and his staff will probably hone in immediately on 14 turnovers. They'll probably hone in on the threes that North Carolina missed. Was there something that you saw today that you feel like they could work on? Was it maybe keeping their foot on the gas when they got such a big lead? Was it focus? You know, when you start rolling in different lineups, what do you feel like something they could probably work on in practice this week before Louisville comes to town?
Yeah, there were probably a lot of deflected passes that didn't turn into turnovers, that were close to being turnovers, especially when you got it inside the paint, guys throwing, you know, it up and getting deflected here, whereas instead of throwing a bounce pass or something like that. So, you know, something like that can be talked about. And then yeah, probably some shot selection things like Zay. And maybe that's, again, when you have a lead, guys come in, they want to get their own, things like that. So just knowing your role and what's a good shot. And you know, obviously the better your shot, the better chance you're going to have to win. So those are a couple things that stood out.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Bobby, last question. We'll let you get out of here. Appreciate you working through us. I know you've got some weather up there in the greater Chicagoland area, but appreciate you working through the Wi-Fi issues with us. Since we haven't had you on, I'm not sure when I'll get you back. What do you feel like the ceiling for this team is now? We talked about how they can get better with Elliot Cadeau's offensive aggression, maybe with some three-point shooting, but just your perspective on what the ceiling for this team might be as we sit in middle of January.
Yeah, after today's win, you start seeing some college basketball media talking about we can make a Final Four run and this and that, and I hope we can. I do, but I still think we're limited in some ways just with our size. I think we're a little small in the guard aspect. But you know, we'll see. We'll see come March. We've played some teams really well. And I don't think there's any one dominant team out there in college basketball. I was at the UConn game. I think UConn is very, very good. They're one of the best. Kansas is very good, obviously. But we've beaten Oklahoma. We've beaten some good teams. And so we can be right there. And I think if we you get to that second weekend in the tournament, anything can happen after that. So that's what I'm hoping for, is we can get out of that first 2 rounds, make it to the second weekend, and then see what happens from there.
For sure. Well, I know one thing. While Bobby is locked in indoors up in Chicago, if you guys, if you want to send Bobby some Johnny T-shirt swag, they can get it to him. No rain, no sleet, no hail, no snow can keep Johnny T-shirt from getting goods to you. They sponsor the show. We appreciate them. JohnnyT-shirt.com. Make sure you check them out. I know a ton of folks right now, including the 400 people that are watching us live. A ton of folks right now are going to be swinging by Johnny T-shirt on East Franklin Street before they leave Chapel Hill today. So we want to make sure we shout them out. Appreciate them sponsoring the show. And also shout out to Congruity HR for sponsoring us. Get your business optimized, small business. Congruity HR /Tar Heels. Get your free assessment. That has been the rundown for today's UNC post-game show. 103-67, Tar Heels absolutely destroy Syracuse in their first game back in the Smith Center quite a while. A lot of things to like. Appreciate you guys tuning in. If you have not, make sure you subscribe to the show, subscribe to the YouTube channel, rate, review, all that good stuff. I'm Joey Powell. Bobby, I appreciate you being here, man. We'll hope to talk to you sometime very, very soon.
Joey, thanks for the invite. Appreciate it.
All right, that's Bobby Frasor. We'll talk to you next time here on the post game on InsideCarolina.com.